Hey there kids, Mr. King here. I'm going to be doing some advanced classes on drawing, especially life drawing, because I got some requests from individual students saying they want to get better at life drawing. So the first one up is probably one of the more difficult things, and that is hands. Hands are really, really tough. If anybody ever tells you they have an easy time drawing hands, they are lying to you, because hands have perplexed artists and been ugly and horrible in many a drawing and painting throughout history. And that's because they're extremely complicated forms with a lot going on. If you look here at the anatomy of a hand, the basic anatomy of a hand, it is nuts. There's a lot going on. There's bones, there's sinew, there's veins and arteries, and oh my gosh, it's nuts. So, give yourself a break. It's kind of difficult to do. You want to do a Simpsons hand? Yeah, pretty easy. But you're going to have to knock off a finger to make those fat fingers fit on the hand and look kind of natural. Look at those 4 fingers. Weird. So anyways, if you're trying to draw hands, don't fret, don't be upset. It is going to be a bit of a slog, and that is just the way it is. But there are some ways that you can make it easier. So here are some tips and tricks that I have for you to make it more efficient the way you are going to learn. So tip number 1 is probably one of the most important when you're trying to do life drawing, which is drawing something from real life. And that is reference images. You need to have images to look at that are going to help you draw something more realistically. So the wonderful thing about being in the time that we are now is cameras are tiny and everywhere. So if you are able to take a picture of your own hand, you can see for these little drawings right here, I have used reference images to be able to create the hands that are in the drawings below. So I had to have those to get my proportions more accurate, to make sure that I could kind of see those shadows and to see kind of the details there, and that is going to help you immensely. So take photos of things that you're going to draw, or find Google images of them, or ask your little brother or little sister to pose. But in the case of your hands, well, guess what? You've got your own model readily available. It is the other hand that you are not drawing with. So go ahead and hold that up and try to position it the way you want it. If it's in a really, really difficult position, you're probably going to need that camera. I'll throw up on the screen right now an image of these posable sculptures of hands that you can get, these little wooden ones. And sometimes they come in other forms online, and they're good. They're really, really helpful. I will tell you that they're worth it if you really want to get better at drawing, but they're not like the be-all, end-all. They're not going to solve everything for you, so don't feel like having one of these is going to just inherently make you a better drawer. You're still going to have to try really, really hard, okay? So that's tip number 1. So, tip number 2. Break it down. Make sure it's easier for you to deal with these drawings and the proportions you're trying to lay out by basically using really simple shapes to be able to actually assemble your hand into little pieces. What that actually means is then use your rhombuses, your rectangles, your ovals, your ellipses, your circles, and your triangles especially, to create basic shape kind of little structures for those hands. It should look kind of like a little robot hand, and then you're going to start being able to see the details within there that you can get. And it'll really, really help you with proportions, because you'll know, like, oh, well, this rectangle should end here against the end of my oval. And, I mean, that just, okay, that proportion looks correct now. So that's tip number 2. So tip number 3 is big picture. You got to look at the big picture. You can't get stuck in the tiny little details. Here's what I want you to imagine. I'm sitting here working on an eye, really giving it my all, putting lots and lots of fine detail into it, and trying to make sure that it looks the best I can possibly make it. But the whole time I've been doing that, I haven't really been moving around and looking at the big picture. Well, we take a look at the big picture here, and we realized, yeah, yikes, things are way out of whack. So now I got to go back and I got to redo everything. Bummer. Don't do this. Look at the big picture, focus on the big stuff, then do the small. So the 4th and final tip and trick I'm going to give you is to use dramatic light. That really talks about whatever you're using for your model. So whether you're using your reference images or whether you're using a live model, you want to make sure you've got dramatic light there, because it'll be much easier to see where the shadows and the light fall. It'll be easier to show that 3-dimensional modeling to make it look a lot more realistic, and just easier for you to learn a lot of these techniques. Now, I like to use a technique that's often used actually when laying out color in paintings. It's called blocking, and you can use blocking with shadows too, because what you could do is you could figure out the basic shape the shadows make. Now this is a little bit more complex of a shape that I'm outlining here in red, but it's the same concept of you're going to break down those shadows into more bite-sized pieces so you know where your darker values go, where your lighter values go, and it gives you a plan to follow so you don't get caught in the little fine details instead of actually worrying about the larger stuff. So I obviously take advantage of this in this drawing over here, but what you might not notice is that the drawing on the right actually had blocking going on too to figure out the value structure, and then I followed that with a little bit of smudging to make it blend together a little bit more. So that's really it. Use all of the tools and techniques. Go to other YouTube videos and find out different techniques you can use. Check out other people's little blog postings on drawing. But I'll try to give you the best tips and tricks that I can think of that have helped me develop as quickly as possible with my drawing. So remember, guys, it's practice, practice, practice. There is no shortcut. There is no such thing as raw talent. It doesn't exist. There aren't people that were just born smart. They had to work at it. They had to learn the stuff. They had to know it. And just like you as an artist, you're going to have to learn and practice and try. And that's actually going to make it that much better when you get it and you're doing really well. So good luck to you, and I'll see you next time for another episode. We'll give you some more little tips and tricks to help you along, hopefully develop a little faster. Catch you later, guys.